Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Podcast on D-Shot. Episode 2 had Pat Miller. Episode 3 had Lance Leipold. Now we get to complete the trifecta as we got John Vodenlich, the head baseball coach at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. Vo, thanks for joining me today.
You bet. D-Shot, good to see you.
Nice to see you again, too. I'm going to start with kind of your thoughts on this year's squad. You got Spear O'Sullivan, Hayden Fox, and Weston Muir returning from the rotation. Matt O'Sullivan had 5 wins in 2019. Muir and forgetting who the other. It was Muir and Spear were combined for 15 wins in 2019. Santoro's kind of the big hitter coming back from that team, obviously kind of just basing on that season, since you guys only played 3 games last year. What's the thought on this year's team going into this shortened season?
Yeah, we're very happy where we're going. We're working hard. We had a great off season. As you know, things are quite a bit different these days, but we were able to be very, very productive all fall into the winter season. And we have a very mature team and a very capable team. But, one of the things that hurts us a little bit, and not just us, any team playing NCAA baseball, but, when you're gone off the field for a year, it takes a little time for you to understand the game and play the game the right way again. So certainly we're prepared physically and mentally, but getting back on the field and playing opponents is a new thing to us. And I'm very happy how we did this past doubleheader.
Is it a little bit different this year? Obviously what's the difference between having the shortened season as opposed to typically you guys are usually headed to Florida around this time? What's been the biggest difference?
Yeah, we can't complain as far as the number of games. We're scheduled for 40 games, which is the Division III rule. Part of those games typically are played during our spring training. So we've had to cancel that for the second year in a row. And that's a huge, huge opportunity for us. I mean, being a northern school, being able to get south for a couple weeks is really a difference maker. But we can't control the pandemic, and so we're making the most of it. So second year in a row, we canceled the spring training, but we do have 40 games scheduled for the regular season, and we played our first 2 just a couple days ago.
What's kind of the schedule outlook, obviously, because is it just conference games or what's kind of the deal there?
Yeah, so we're playing all games against conference opponents. 28 of those games will be counted for league standings, and then the rest are considered non-conference games, but are against conference opponents. That allowed us to stay consistent with testing, I think, because not all the universities have equal testing capability. So it's a all league schedule, but 28 of them are going to count for league standings. And then we found out just about a week ago that we are approved to play a conference tournament.
All right. So my next question is how have things like practices and obviously the tryouts in the fall and even the throwout, you guys have camps during kind of the like November around Thanksgiving, you guys typically have a camp. December around Christmas, you guys typically have a camp. I've helped out with a few of those that one year. How has that changed during this pandemic?
Well, we're happy having camps, period. And certainly the number that have been allowed to attend was drastically reduced. But, we canceled several camps last March, and those are our biggest camps. So after having those canceled, we were happy to get camps back. And like I said, of course, like all the teams here, you take a hit because capacities are reduced and things like that. But we're just happy. We're just happy and optimistic about where things are going. So we're happy to have camps back. We're happy to have practice back. I think all the coaches are just happy to be on the field with their student athletes. And now it looks like we're going to be able to have a full season outdoors. So Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of heartache, of course, but we're optimistic and happy that we can do at least this.
Did you have to do any like splitting up of any of the practices or anything like that?
Yeah, we've tried to mitigate, spread any way we can. Baseball's good for that. I mean, I feel bad for basketball and football because, it's hard to split the lineup, so to speak. And for us, the shortstop's distant from the second baseman, who's distant from the third baseman. So we've done everything in our power to try to maintain some social distance, maintain masks, and then regular testing has been done well in our campus, and I got to thank our chancellor and then our athletic director for that.
The WIC just announced kind of a attendance thing recently. What are your kind of initial thoughts on that?
Like I said, if that was the attendance policy 5 years ago, I'd be pretty upset. Coming off a pandemic, knowing that the spread of the disease is still an issue, my biggest concern going in was, are those parents going to be allowed to see their young sons play? And the answer is yes. Each student athlete has two tickets they can give to their family, and we're very happy that they can come see their student athletes play.
Obviously, Whitewater accomplished a trifecta in 2014. All three head coaches were played for their predecessors. Miller playing for Dave Augie Vandermeer and Leipold playing for Brez. What did you learn the most from playing and coaching alongside your predecessor and Jim Miller?
Yeah, well, our across the board, our motto is powered by tradition. You've seen it, you've heard it. It's everywhere, right? And I don't think tradition by its very nature. There's bad traditions too, So I think what I learned from Mills is that tradition matters, and there's a certain way we go about our business to make sure we have a strong tradition. The first thing I learned was that when I started working with him, he basically knew everyone personally that had ever played, that was living, that had ever played for Warhawk baseball. That's pretty impressive. I mean, he knew someone who played in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and he knew them personally. And when you have those type of relationships, I think good things follow. Mills was definitely a relationship man. He believed that was his number one kind of calling. And so, I'm certainly different than he was, and not capable like he was, but, we're trying to maintain that tradition, knowing everyone. This morning, I was fortunate enough to see Mike Delott, who played in the late 60s and early 70s. So he stopped out at the clubhouse to say hi. So those are the types of relationships that I was taught to value. And I think if I learned anything from Mills, I learned that the relationships are the key.
What's your favorite story, if you want to talk about one about Mills?
Boy, there's all kinds of good stories. I'll give you.
I know there's one about I've heard about the whole him and Brezowitz trying to was it like get the field dry?
Oh yeah, that was an easy one. I mean, back in the day when we had a natural field, the old timers, and I'm including Bob Brezowitz on that, and Jim Miller, they would burn the field. All right. And so, you'd first, litter the field with gas, and then you'd actually set a match to it. And the idea was the heat of the fire would somehow dissipate the moisture in the ground. And so that happened multiple times when I was a player. Anyone who played, I would say prior to 89 and earlier, understood what was going on there. And Bob Brezowitz was really the engineer of that, and Mills was his counterpart. So that's a great story. If you had Lance on here, he'd tell you about how he was actually an assistant baseball coach for a year as well for Mills. And when he asked Mills, what his job was, Mills says, "You're the play catch coach." And Lance says, "Play catch coach? What are you talking about?" Mills says, "Every time they go down the line to play catch, I need you there paying attention." So yeah, I was actually coached by Lance, in his first year as a baseball coach. And I appreciate that. But I mean, those kind of things happen a lot. One time back in the day when we would travel, he never wanted to give his per diem money out to the athletes prior to the time they needed it. And that was a good idea because, you know, a plane ride to California would end up with people playing cards or something like that. So Mills would always hold the money. And one year, unfortunately, he forgot the whole money bag at the airport. And we rented the vans and he left it on the desk. So after about 20-minute drive, he found out and remembered and we had to turn around the vehicles, go back and get it. And fortunately for all of us, the money was still there. So yeah, we could sit here all day. Mills was a great man. We talk a lot about the things, you know, like that happened that, you know, that are memorable, but certainly on a day in and day basis, you know, the relationship we had with Mills was really what it was about.
All right. I'm going to switch hands to somebody else, obviously, to somebody that you played for, to somebody that you played with that I'm curious about. You were a college teammate with Bob Wickman.
Yeah.
What was he like as a teammate at Whitewater, and how proud are you to say that you played with an MLB closer?
Yeah. So Bob was, you know, he was a very, very talented young man. I mean, and he came here, in my mind, really because of Bill Wickman, his brother. And, you know, if you're from Abrams, Wisconsin, you go wherever your older brother tells you to go. And because of that, we fortunately got two great players, two great people. And, you know, Bob, you know, I always had a good relationship with Bob and you know, never once felt like, you know, he was above us or that he, you know, was such a great player that we couldn't communicate with him. Certainly if you asked him, he would tell you he was going to go to the show. And anyone at the time would be like, I don't know, it's not that easy. But I saw a switch happen in Bob when he got drafted. You know, he was pretty serious about what he was tending to, you know, and he developed tremendously between his junior year in college and his first years in pro baseball. I mean, it was fun to watch. Still very close to the program. We appreciate all of his support and his friendship. So it's a pretty cool deal. And I think he's doing well. I think he's coaching again in River Valley. So he's a baseball person and he should be in the game, certainly.
I'm going to switch it over to since Lake Becker is kind of a top 30 prospect with the Padres. How proud are you of Lake and what he's accomplished in the Padres organization?
Yeah, man, Lake is a person that everyone loves. I mean, I don't know anyone who doesn't like Lake. He's unassuming. He's hardworking. He's a quality young man. Started, you know, football first here. And I knew he could pitch because his high school coach thought the world of him. And we just kind of left the door open for him. And when he finally decided to come on out, he quickly became one of our top pitchers and a high round pick. And, you know, there's people in this life that you root for, and there's others that maybe you root against because of how they are and who they are. Lake's the guy that you want to root for. And I do it every day. I wake up and probably a day doesn't go by that you don't think of the impact he made on our program, but also how deserving he is of hopefully playing Major League Baseball soon.
How did that kind of happen where you ended up getting him on the team that year? Obviously, Lance had just left. Did Lance ever kind of like say he had to focus on football, or did he just, or how much, what kind of?
Always says that, just like I always say, you need to focus on baseball. So Lance and I always had a good relationship, and we really respected the fact that he was a football coach first, and I was a baseball coach first, and we never had very many issues like that. I think, you know, from the time he walked onto campus, he knew the opportunity was always there to pitch, all right, and play for us. But I think, like so many young men, they're not ready to just do two at the college level. This isn't high school. I mean, it's challenging. And even the highest and best athlete at high school has to work very hard to play even one sport in college. So I think for Lake, it was one of those things, getting comfortable on the football team. And then once he was comfortable there and felt like he had established himself, he was confident that he could transition to our side. And he made an immediate impact for us. So, you know, I don't know the discussions he had with Lance, but certainly that relationship, me, Lance, and Lake, was always a good one.
Okay. You've won 2 national championships as head coach at Whitewater. What's your favorite moment from both of those?
Boy, well, I don't know if I have a favorite moment. I can tell you something I've realized from that is that there's a lot of great teams that weren't winning national championships. We got close a lot, and so it's not as easy as everyone thinks. So I set expectations less than I ever did, because I don't know if I felt '05 was going to do it right away, or 14 certainly. So I don't set artificial expectations on teams anymore. I just let them become who they can become, and a lot of times it turns out to some really quality teams. 5 was a really cool team, very mature team, great chemistry, a lot of big names on that team. And then 14 was a team that really struggled late. As late as 3/4 of the season, it really had kind of had to reinvent ourselves. And once again, a lot of quality young men that made major impacts. So when I think of those 2 teams, the commonalities, I think, are the chemistry that each of the players, or the players, had among themselves, and the leadership. And there are just hardcore, mentally tough men. Certainly there was probably more talented teams, but not more mentally talented teams. They were strong mentally, and I think that ultimately is why we won the titles.
Okay. I'll add in my favorite from that year. Obviously, calling the 9-inning game on radio, JP Fireeisen pitching, and then the 13-inning game on TV right after. And then my not so great moment is Gonzo up to the plate against Lacrosse and randomly saying, "Oh, let's see if he can hit a home run," like his girlfriend on the softball team. And then all of a sudden Gonzo hits a home run. But I'm going to transition to, I want to know about a certain opportunity you had. If people don't know about Vo, and I didn't know this until I graduated college and looked up who's in this movie, is that you're in Mr. 3000 as an Astros catcher, and you actually get some close-ups in the movie. How did that opportunity come about and just start?
Yeah, so that's been a long time ago, and definitely overplayed back then. So you're bringing up a memory from years ago. But the long and the short of it is, I came home to my wife and my young daughter, and there was a lot of stuff in the news about these tryouts for this baseball movie. The last time a movie had been filmed about baseball in the area was Major League, which was kind of a real old movie. But anyway, so it was on the news every day, and they were soliciting baseball people to come on and try out. And I had no intentions of going. I mean, that's not something I wanted to do. I was focused on trying to coach and be a family guy. So, but my wife had convinced my daughter that, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be in this movie. And my daughter was convinced that was going to happen. Right. And I think at the time she might've been about 3 or 4. So anyway, I said, all right, if you want me to go, I'll go to the interview. I'll go to the tryouts, but that's it. And I remember Jay Wyshynski, a former Warhawk, who's now the head coach at Whitefish Bay, and we went. And he kind of said, yeah, I'll go with you. We'll wait in this long line. So we waited in this huge line. And it was like, any movie that you would ever see where just there's a lot of people wanting to make it. And there's a lot of people that clearly shouldn't be there. All right. So
I think I saw that from some Journal Times article, is when somebody was saying.
Yeah. So there's a guy behind us 2 or 3 rows back, and he has a Magic Johnson Lakers gear on. So he has the 32 jersey and shorts, and he has his cleats strapped over his shoulder. And not to say he couldn't be a baseball guy, but he's certainly coming in like that was not a baseball guy. I mean, that was clear. So there was a lot of people that were just randomly wanting to try to make it. Maybe they loved baseball at some time, but really what they were looking for is a high caliber athlete that could look the part. And fortunately for me, Um, one of the consultants on the film was a head coach down in UW-Milwaukee. So when I walked up, and they said, "Hey, do you know this guy?" And Coach Duffick's like, "Yeah, he's a baseball guy through and through." So I made it through the first cut. And then the second cut, I actually had to get back on the field and start playing the game again. And once again, I think, there's a lot of luck in life. And that was a lucky thing. And then the third piece was they offered me a speaking part, which eventually got cut out of the film. But for one day, I was part of the, Screen Actors Guild Union, and had a SAG card and got some residual dollars from the movie, which was really neat. And met a lot of good people there. Met my pitching coach then for the last, couple years after that, Doug Henry, who was a former Brewer. He was in that film. And I met a great bunch of guys, Bernie Mac being one of them. Unfortunately, as you know, he died. So he was always good to the people working in his films. And so the experience was amazing. It was a great experience for me. But, it was a one in a lifetime type of thing.
What do you remember from kind of just filming that in general?
Well, I remember that, the movies make everyone look pretty good because Bernie could not play, man. I mean, he knew it, but he worked his butt off. I mean, he had a hitting coach and he worked on having as good a swing as possible. But there's a scene in the movie that I love. Bernie Mac hits a home run. So you can just find out the one scene where Bernie Mac hits a home run. And when you see it, it looks legit. But I can tell you that the ball barely made it over the second baseman's head. All right. So what they're able to do in the movie, it was amazing to me. Everything from the slow motion to how they set up things and the lighting and things of that nature. So, Bernie Mac, that was him, and it worked out pretty good. Come on in and say hi to D-Shot. Here's assistant coach Bartline.
What's up, Bartline? How are you doing?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
Yeah. Good.
Where are you working these days?
Just trying to find another journalism job. So.
All right.
So.
Well, good. Stay on it.
Yeah. So anyway, what else you want to talk about?
The other thing about that I wanted to kind of say is, what do Sam and Emma think about that movie now, or anybody that's played for you? Or
I don't think very many of them know I'm in the movie, and even if I don't think very many of them have ever seen the movie. You know what I'm saying? It's time passes by pretty quickly in our program. I mean, when you think about it, I guess that would have been like 2003, 2004 movie, maybe.
I think so.
From my memory, I think that's the timing of it. That's a long time ago. I mean, that's almost 20 years ago. So some of these guys weren't even born, D-Shot. You know what I mean? That goes to tell you how old you are.
Yeah. And yet alone, I had a copy of that throughout college and didn't know you were in it. And then I was like, had to get you to autograph it.
Yeah.
We'll end this on a little bit of a fun one, because I'm just curious. I threw this one in there. Can you name all 30 MLB stadiums?
No, not a chance. Not even close.
Okay.
Can't even get close to that one. But I have been trying to get to as many as I can. The names are always tough because just like Miller Park has just changed, the names always change. But I could tell you my favorite parks. Fenway's cool. I've been both at the old and the new Yankee Stadium. Love that. Got to meet Cal Ripken Jr. when I visited Camden Yards, which was awesome. If you ever go to that stadium, you also can do a walk where they show you where Babe Ruth lived, because he was a Baltimore guy. So I love those. Pittsburgh, maybe one of my all-time faves. I mean, that's a great stadium, great area around it. Really like that. Wrigley is cool. Had a group of Europeans come to Wrigley, and I asked them, I said, all right, you've been to Wrigley, the historic Wrigley Field. What do you remember most about it? And I thought they would say the ivy or the rooftops, but instead they said the latrines, the urinals, because they're basically troughs. All right. And so we got this whole group of Europeans that are going to remember Miller Park for the Wrigley for the bathrooms. Miller Park's a cool stadium, very similar to the one in Arizona. Love that. So been to Busch Stadium, all those. I mean, the thing I love about it, and anyone who's listening that, you know, maybe is only a little bit of a baseball fan, I can tell you this: the cool thing of baseball stadiums is they are all very unique. There's not two of them that are the same, not in dimensions, not in how they set it up. And that's part of really the tradition of the game. I mean, you know, there's, I don't remember what the pesky pole at Fenway is, but it's about 302 down the line, right? So those are the things that make this game really cool. And I think it also, if you're visiting and traveling, if there's a baseball field near you, stop and see it, because I think each of them is very unique. And like I said, there's other stadiums I've been to, but those are some of the ones that stick in my mind.
Okay, about a favorite baseball moment or favorite Brewers moment?
Yeah, probably it's not a Brewers moment, although the Brewers were playing. It was, for me, it was I was in, I guess it would have been Game 5. The Brewers were playing the Diamondbacks in the playoffs. Fortunately, the owner of the Lakeshore Chinooks hooked me up with some great tickets, and I was able to go with my son, Sam, and he was very young at the time. And of course, we won the game and confetti dropped, and it was a great moment. It was a great sports moment, but it was even greater moment for me as a father, because I was able to spend that with my son. So, yeah.
Is that the Niger Morgan base hit the center to score Gomez?
Yeah, I think maybe CC Sabathia was pitching, but I don't remember specifically, but I think that would have been the game. I know we had Niger. So, yeah, that was a pretty good ending. I think it was Game 5 we won against the Diamondbacks, and you know, one of our alums, Eric Baldwin, who's a professional gambler in Vegas. He's a huge Diamondbacks fan. So when we beat him, it was a cool moment for both of us. So
I guess, how much, with obviously connecting the Brewers to this, how much do you keep in touch with Craig Sean, who's the Fox Sports Wisconsin pregame host?
Yeah. Not as much as I'd like. He's been awesome, and you know, the other announcer there, Sophia, she used to do WIC stuff early in her career, and has earned an opportunity to be at the, you know, national spotlight. But the person that I probably value the most in the Brewers organization is a former outfielder by the name of Jim Bathy. Jim's been a loyal employee for the Brewers for a long time, and he's been just as loyal for us. So yeah, we're really happy with him. So, and when I get to a game, I try to see him.
Okay. Let's just send it on. What's your favorite thing about coaching at Whitewater?
The tradition. I mean, the people that I've played with. I mean, I kind of took over where Mills left off, and I never played with a guy like Jim Bathy. I never played with Blake Elliott or Tim Patterson or any of those guys. But now I know them and I consider them friends. So, and then if you go back, you know, a guy named Danny Anderson, and I mean, the list goes on and on. Today, Mike Bilott, I already mentioned that. So for me, it's the relationships we've built throughout the years that are very unique and special to Whitewater and Warhawk baseball. So that's what I love most about it. And, you know, and those relationships, you know, are really what feed me and make me work. So.
All right. Thanks, Vo, for
all right,
for joining me, and thanks everybody for listening. Go
Keep
Hawks.
grinding. Keep grinding. All right. See ya.
Yep. All right.